Have you ever wondered why some men only realize what they had when it has already walked away? There is a certain kind of woman that leaves a mark on a man's soul. Not because she is perfect. Not because she never cries, never doubts, never feels lonely. She leaves a mark because she is deeply, quietly, unshakably herself. She is the kind of woman every man regrets losing, not as a trophy, but as a mirror he wished he had been brave enough to look into sooner. She is not defined by her face, her body, her social image. Those fade and change. What does not fade is the way she moves through life. She walks like someone who has met her own darkness and did not run from it. Jung would call it the shadow, the hidden fears. The shame, the anger, the old stories learned in childhood. Most people hide from this shadow, pretending to be only light. But she has learned to turn toward that darkness and sit with it, like sitting with a frightened child. This gives her a strange strength. She does not need to crush others to feel big, because she is no longer afraid of her own inner storms. When a man meets her, something ancient in him wakes up. In Jungian language, she touches his anima, the inner feminine part of his psyche. Through her, he feels emotions he has pushed down for years. He starts to sense his own longing for wholeness, for meaning, for softness that does not make him weak. This can be beautiful. But it can also be terrifying. Because to truly receive her, he would have to drop his masks. He would have to stop living only from his ego, that fragile part that cares about winning, status, pride, and control. She is kind, but she is not a doormat. She loves, but she does not abandon herself to keep someone else comfortable. Where another might swallow pain just to avoid conflict, she breathes, feels her chest tighten, and then speaks anyway. Her voice shakes sometimes, but she still chooses truth. She knows that peace built on silence and self-betrayal is not peace at all, just a slow kind of death. Maybe you recognize something of yourself in her. Maybe you have been the one who loved deeply and still walked away when your soul felt starved. The one who lied to herself for years, saying, "It's not that bad," while a quiet voice inside whispered, "This is killing you." Every time you ignored that whisper, your body kept the score. Tension in the jaw. Knots in the stomach. That heavy tiredness that no amount of sleep could fix. Until one day you realized, no one is coming to save you from a life where you keep abandoning yourself. That realization is where this woman is born. Her power does not come from never having trauma. It often grows directly from it. As a child, she may have learned that love must be earned, that her feelings were too much, that her worth depended on how useful she could be. For a long time, she played that role, the healer, the fixer, the quiet one. Then something broke. A betrayal. A deep loneliness even while lying next to someone. A moment in the mirror where her own eyes looked back like a stranger's. That breaking point forced a choice, continue shrinking to be loved, or stand up inside her own life. Through this inner work, she began to see patterns. Why she stayed with people who could not meet her. Why she tried to heal men who were not willing to heal themselves. Why chaos felt strangely familiar, like home. That is shadow work in daily life, noticing the old wounds that keep choosing the same pain in different bodies. Instead of blaming every man, she turns inward, not to judge herself, but to understand. She starts to feel the worth that was always there under all the noise. The more she feels it, the less she begs. Men feel this difference. At first, they may mistake it for coldness or pride, because it is rare. She does not chase, not because she does not care, but because she has learned that what is truly hers will not need her to bleed for it. She shows up fully, but she also shows that she can leave. She can love someone with her whole heart and still close the door if love becomes a place where she has to disappear. To the ego of an unready man, this is confusing. He may test her. Ignore her needs. See how far he can stretch her boundaries. Each time, she responds not with drama, but with clarity. She explains what hurts. She asks for honesty. If nothing changes, she does something many talk about but few actually do: she follows through. She steps back. She stops explaining her worth to someone who has already been shown. In Stoic thought, there is a simple rule: focus only on what is in your control. Her control ends at her own choices. His awakening, his healing, his effort, those are his. She does not twist herself trying to perform for his attention. She knows that any love that requires her to beg is too small for her soul. You can almost see the scene years later. He is with someone new, or alone with his memories. Little moments drift back, her laughter at something small, the way she really listened when he spoke about childhood, the way she saw the broken boy under the hardened man and did not judge him for it. She held space for his tears without making him feel less. But she also refused to be his mother, his therapist, and his emotional punching bag. She loved him, but she would not let him use her as a place to dump his unprocessed pain. At the time, his ego called this too demanding, too sensitive, too much. Only later does he realize she was simply not willing to be hurt in the same way anymore. She was asking him to meet her as an adult, not as a scared child in a grown body. That realization stings. Because regret is often not about losing a person, but about seeing the version of self that could have been grown with that person's presence. Jung spoke about individuation, the journey of becoming whole, of integrating all the parts of oneself. She was an invitation to that journey. Through her, he could have learned to feel without drowning, to apologize without shame, to be strong without being hard. When she left, she did not take his potential with her, but she took away the mirror that made it hard to keep lying to himself. He can still choose to grow, but the opportunity to grow beside her in that way is gone. That is the quiet, heavy regret. Meanwhile, her life did not end at that goodbye. Yes, she grieved. She cried in the shower, on the kitchen floor, in the car while the music played songs that cut too deep. She felt anger and softness twisting together inside. But she did not make his choice a verdict on her worth. She saw the pain as an echo of older wounds, the little girl in her who once believed if they leave, it means I am not enough. Instead of drowning in that story, she held that inner child close in her mind. She told her, with actions slowly matching words, you are worth staying for, even if they do not stay. You are worth choosing, even if they do not choose you. In time, the shaking stopped. Her nervous system calmed. She found new rituals, sun on her face in the morning, a book that made her think, a hobby that had nothing to do with being attractive to anyone. Her circle, even if small, became made of people who did not only call when they needed healing. She learned the quiet art of being content in her own company, of going out alone without feeling like half of something missing. This is what real empowerment looks like, not loud performances of strength, but a deep sense that even when everything shifts outside, there is a solid ground inside that cannot be stolen. You are capable of becoming this woman, if you choose. Not for a man to regret you, not as a weapon, not as some game of who will miss me when I'm gone. That is still the ego talking. Still the old hunger for validation dressed up in spiritual words. The true power of this kind of woman is that she no longer builds her life around someone else realizing her value. She knows it, so deeply that regret, his or anyone's, is just background noise. Men may still regret losing her. Some will try to come back, drawn by the calm strength she has grown. Some will turn their regret into growth, changing how they love the next person. Others will only miss the comfort she gave without learning the lesson. That is not her problem to solve. Her task is her own soul. Her journey is her own wholeness. And so, the type of woman every man regrets losing is, in truth, the woman who has finally stopped losing herself. She faces her shadow instead of running. She lets go of what she cannot control. She breaks the old contracts with pain that said, I will stay small if you promise not to leave. She no longer trades her peace for a seat at anyone's table. Love, for her, becomes a meeting of equals or nothing at all. If your heart is tired from proving, if your hands are sore from holding on to people who are already walking away, there is another way. Let the loss become a teacher. Let the silence after the goodbye show where you had abandoned yourself long before they abandoned you. Step by step, choice by choice, become the woman whose worth is not a question mark in her own mind. Because in the end, the greatest freedom is this, to be fully, fiercely yourself, with or without their understanding, with or without their apology, with or without their regret. That is the woman no one truly replaces, and the woman who no longer needs to be replaced. Because she has finally come home to herself.